town. Take me down to Hockey Town, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hello, hockey fans. The Minnesota Hockey Connection show is on the air. We're at PACT-TV studios in Duluth, and it's January 9th, 2023. And Happy New Year's to all you hockey fans. A lot of hockey. The studio's been down for about a month. They're doing a lot of construction in City Hall right now, redoing the air conditioning and heating. So you have to bear with us, but we're back on the air, and we'll start having guests starting next week. And a few of the guests that I'm getting set up, the coach of Duluth Denfield, Dale Jagle. We got Scotty Piant. He's the new coach and starting the hockey program at the new Catholic school, Stella Maris. He'll be coming in, and we got a few other guests that are set up already too. So there'll be a lot of guests coming in to the studios to talk hockey. So welcome back. It's 2023. Let's get going. A lot of high school. We're in the middle of the season on all levels. I mean, high school, college, pro. We're all there now. So we kind of know what's going on and what has to happen to get to the top. So let's start with high school. I've been seeing a lot of the top teams in the last month. And right now, in my rankings, I have Wayzata #1 in Class AA. And they just beat the former #1 Minnetonka. Minnetonka is still going to be my favorite right now to win the state tournament. And they have a 9-2 record as we talk today. But Wayzata beat them 3-1. But mainly because their goalie stopped 44 out of the 45 shots in that game. So Wayzata has the goalie. So if they're going to make it and win the state tournament, big part will be their goalie. And #2 in the standings, rankings, Maple Grove. They've been playing pretty good since the beginning of the season. They started out a little slow, but Maple Grove is 11-2. And so I expect them to make it to state. Their biggest rival right now will be Rogers. They're in the top 10, and the other team I really like that can upset teams like this is Centennial. That's in their conference too. So #4, Chanhassen. This is a very good team, and they're 12-1. They only lost to Andover in the beginning of the season. But what I like about this team is that they're pretty deep, and they all play hard. And the only problem I see with this team is that their schedule. I always believe in coaching, and schedule has to get more emphasis for the great teams. And this team, I think, is a little weak in the scheduling, and that could hurt them at the end of the season. Let's hope not, but they gotta keep playing the way they are, and then when they get the big games, hopefully they can compete with them. So down the line, they have a couple more big games, but that's it. Where teams like Edina, Wayzata, they play their conference games like they're with Eden Prairie, Minnetonka. So plus they play these outside games outside of their conference that are like St. Thomas Academy, and they all play. And it's just a tough schedule for these Wayzata, Minnetonka, Edina teams. And that makes them good at the end of the year, ready for the playoffs. So #5, Edina. They started out really slow. I think they were 0-3 to start the season. Now they're 8-3-1. So they won 8 games in a row, and then they tied Lakeville South on Saturday night. So they're well coached, as everyone knows. Kurt Giles does a great job, and his assistants down there at the Hornet Ranch. So number 7, Andover. Andover's been a funny team this year. They lost a lot of their back end and their goalie, and but what they have is probably the best first line in the state. And they got to depend on this first line. If the first line's not doing it, they could be in trouble. And it shows with their record. They're 8-5-1, but they're very scary when that first line is on. And all these kids are going to be Mr. Hockey candidates. The last names are Conway, Casey, and Thorelson. And remember, Andover won the state tournament in Class AA last year, and they want to repeat. So, and they're in Section 7, and they got Duluth East, Grand Rapids to go against. Cloquet's in that section, so there could be interesting games. And earlier this season, Duluth East beat Andover. East played their best game of the year, played all 3 periods, and I think they beat them 5-1, and they just stopped that first line. The first line wasn't on that night. But I saw them during the not state tournament, but during Christmas holiday tournaments, and 3 times, and boy, they killed Burnell 8-3, and now Burnell, ever since that game, they've been playing really good. So coming up number 8 after Andover is Burnell. And like I said, they're playing real good, and they're 8-4 right now, and they got some speed. They just beat St. Thomas Academy. That's the former Duluth East coach Mike Randolph's team now. And so, hey, but watch out for Burnell. They're starting to play with their speed, and they got a lot of young players too. And then number 9, Cretin-Durham Hall. Cretin-Durham Hall has a couple centers. First line is Jake Fisher, and the second line has LePay. And Cretin's been, the games I've seen them, they've been double shifting these 2 centers because they're the ones that score. Most teams don't have scorers, and if they do, they have 1 or 2. So basically why Cretin is double shifting, get them on the ice more time, and more time on the ice, more chances to score, because these kids can shoot the puck. And number 10, we got White Bear Lake, which is 9-2. And then teams to watch on Class AA is Centennial, Chaplin Park, Eastview, Lakeview South, Shakopee, St. Thomas Academy, and Stillwater. The only team I haven't seen this year of all these teams is Shakopee and Stillwater, but everyone else I've seen already. So these are the teams I see in Class AA right now, and maybe there might be a few more teams that come in to play. Let's move over to Class A. And truthfully, you can switch the first 2 teams in the rankings. Right now, I'm keeping Hermantown number 1 since they haven't lost a game, and they played some tough teams, and they're 9-0-1. And like I said, they played a lot of tough teams, and they got the biggest game of the year for them. It's probably this Saturday when they play the number 2 team, Railroad, who is 11-0. They're undefeated, and they got probably one of the Mr. Hockey candidates has a very good chance of winning Mr. Hockey, Jason Shoneby. And he's a commitment to the University of Minnesota Duluth. So they got I think a prize hockey player in this kid. And he just broke Railroad's scoring record of all time. He just passed T.J. Oshie. And you know where T.J. Oshie has done in his career in every level. So what a amazing stat there to be the highest scorer in Railroad history with all those great players over the years. Number 3, Orono. Number 4, Montemita. Number 5, East Grand Forks. East Grand Forks is just above 500, but I tell you what, they play a tough schedule. When you play a tough schedule, you're going to be better at the end of the year. I think their major problem, like last year, has been their goaltending because they're scoring a lot of goals. So if they can get their goaltender to be pretty steady, just save 90% of the saves, they're going to be a team to reckon with at the end of the year. Number 6, we got Northfield at 9-2. Number 7, Delano, 6-5 record. And like East Grand Forks, Delano plays a tough schedule. They play every top 10 Class A team, plus a few double A teams. And hey, this team, because of that, is going to be ready by the end of the year. Number 8, Detroit Lakes at 9-3-1. Number 9, Fergus Falls, 6-3-1. And number 10, Two Rivers. And the teams to watch, we got Albert Lee, Duluth Denfeld, Andy Larson on Duluth Denfeld. Boy, it's fun to watch that kid. That kid can score. And like I say, he's fun to watch. And Denfeld has War Road down here at the Duluth Heritage Center 2 Saturdays from now. So Hermantown goes up to War Road this Saturday, and which will be, that'll be the 14th. And then the 21st, War Road comes down here at the Heritage Center and plays Duluth Denfeld. So if you can get to either one of those games, it'll be fun to watch, to see some great players and a very good team in War Road. And another team to watch is Hibbing. Their program is getting better and better. They got some very good youth programs that are ranked. And so that's good to see a range team now rebuilding, and maybe they'll have a few good teams for a few years now. And who knows? They might even jump up to Double A if they can get 3 or 4 good years here. Okay, Litchfield, Dessel, Colcata, they're in a team to watch. They're 9-2 record. New Ulm, 10-1-1. And then St. Cloud Cathedral, they've lost a few games, but hey, I think they'll be in there at the end of the year for their section. So we'll wait and see. But right now, I see only 4 or 5 teams that can win Class A, play 2 tough games at the end of the year. And some of the other teams, they got to play section finals that might be tough for them. But I think like Hermantown should be a walk-in. War Road, same thing. Unless East Grand Forks gets some goaltending. Orono looks very good, and Montemita has been playing very good hockey, and they're beating some Double A teams, and so we'll see. It looks good right now in those 4 teams. And I'm just looking over. I get to vote for. I have the privilege of getting to vote for Mr. Hockey, and so I watch a lot of teams and a lot of the very good players on some of these teams, and I'll just go over some of the players that I really like right now that I'll probably vote on. And Andover has 3 players I really like. Conway, he has 14 goals and 16 assists for 30 points in 14 games. Casey, he has 7 goals and 17 assists for 24 points in 13 games. Thornton, he has 16 goals and 11 assists for 27 points in 14 games. And Maple Grove has Finn Brink, and they were the runner-ups last year in state tournament, lost to Andover in overtime. And Finn Brink has 13 games, had 12 goals and 17 assists for 29 points. And moving on, Jake Fisher from Cretin. He's, you know what? The Elite League has all the top players in Minnesota high school that get these extra games in before the regular high school season starts, so they can get 24 games. But 19 of the 20 top players I had on my list were playing juniors in the fall. which is crazy. And so the Elite League was pretty diluted, I thought, this year. But Jake Fisher was probably the top player in that league. And he's a big centerman for Cretin. And in 14 games, he has 18 goals and 12 assists for 30 points. Then over in Mike Randolph, Coach Mike Randolph's team at St. Thomas Academy, Tommy Cronin. Kid has great hands and great feet. And I tell you, this kid has improved so much in 1 year. He was a big assist player last year and the year before, and now he's scoring goals. In 13 games, he has 18 goals and 10 assists for 28 points. And a lot of these points were against top teams, so I really like this kid. And like I said, there's not very few A players that will be on my list for Mr. Hockey, but one that's probably right at the top, if not at the top, is Jason Shoneby, World. In 11 games, he's got 12 goals and 25 assists for 37 points. That's amazing. So that's a few of the players that I'm highlighting right now on Mr. Hockey. And I'll put a few more in when we talk Mr. Hockey a little more in the next following weeks. And I'll probably vote in about a month. Well, let's get to college. I've been seeing a lot of UMD and the Minnesota Gophers and whatever teams they are playing lately. And I tell you what, I really like this Gopher team. Even though St. Cloud State beat them, St. Cloud State's a very good team too. But I tell you what, Minnesota Gophers, this is one of their better teams in years. And they got the offense, they got the D, almost every one of the D pinched. Like, this is the new style in hockey now. They get in play all the time. They like to be like forwards, a lot of these D now. And teams that can work with that, where the forwards notice when the D's going in, they fall back defense-wise. And I tell you what, a lot more goals are scored, and that's why Colorado Avalanche won, because their D could pinch all the time. So it's fun to watch the Gophers. Their record is 15-6, and I think it might be 16-6, because I was at the game last night. I don't know if I put that on there, but they won in overtime last night against St. Cloud State. St. Cloud State tried to tighten the rink up a little bit and not give too much space, but and their goalie played real well. But I like this Minnesota team, and we'll see if they can get back to the Frozen Four again. So other teams, St. Cloud State this is all the pairwise. So the top 16 teams in the pairwise get to go to the regionals. So and then the 4 regions winners go down to Tampa, Florida for the Frozen Four in April. But St. Cloud State is number 3. We got Denver number 5, and it's amazing, but the Big Ten is very strong this year. They got 4 teams in the top 7. They got Penn State at number 4, Ohio State number 6, and Michigan number 7. And then we got some back east teams on the top 10, Boston U, Harvard, and Merrimack, which I haven't seen any of those teams in the East yet. I've seen a few teams from the East, but not those teams. But it looks like the Midwest is doing real well, and we got some very strong teams. And we're in the midway now, and now it's a lot of conference play with all these teams, and so we'll see who is there at the end, but it's looking good for these teams in the top 10. Let's see, I got some other things here. Yeah, the UMD, I saw them against Bemidji State on Saturday night, and they looked pretty good. I mean, they took it to Bemidji, and I was kind of surprised that Bemidji didn't have that much offense. But maybe it's just a style that UMD plays, and they have been playing for the last 6, 7 years, where they don't give too much space at all to any of these teams, and that's one thing. But the only concern I have with UMD is that if they get behind in the game, do they have the offensive power to score some goals to catch up? And we haven't really seen it yet this year, and that's why they're basically a 500 team. And no offense, but to the refs, but I think Coach Sandlin is right. Be a little upset at all these home games where every call goes against him. Goals, major penalties, 5-minute penalties they're getting, and I think a lot of times I think the refs are wrong myself, but I am not a ref, and so we'll let it at that. But Sandy hasn't been happy at home with the refs this year. And I had some stats on, with six teams in D1 in Minnesota, we got some teams that are going to be playing in the regions again, and we're getting stronger and stronger. St. Thomas doesn't have the record now, but they're recruiting their own people, and a lot of these kids will be playing in the next couple years. And St. Thomas will be a very competitive team when they get their own players and that. It's tough to start a program when you have other kids, and plus it was a D3 players basically that they had. And so we'll wait and see, but I see some recruiting going on there, and I see the assistant coaches at a lot of the high school games. So looks like they're looking at a lot of Minnesota kids. So there's going to be an opportunity for more Minnesota kids to play D1 hockey, and that's a good thing. And we got another team over in South Dakota, Augustana. They'll be starting their program this next year, and so this is good for D1 hockey, and I think very good for Minnesota kids, more opportunity, and hopefully we'll see more Minnesota kids playing D1 hockey, which is why I go to all these college games to see the Minnesota kids. Okay, I was at the Wild game last night. I'm always at a rink, as everyone knows. I see 400 games a year, and my love is high school hockey. Then I like to watch these kids develop, and in the next few weeks I'll go over all the Minnesota kids that play in pro hockey, and how many kids went to D1 schools in Minnesota, like Minnesota Gophers and UMD Bulldogs and that. So we'll go over that. But there's about 50 kids that already played at least one game in National Hockey League this year from Minnesota. So that's great. But watching the Wild last night, they were missing a couple players. Zuccarello was the number one player. I noticed that they were playing. They had a lot of chemistry with Caprisa in the first line there, and they were scoring a lot of points in that. And so he got injured, and I hope he can get back later, because the Wild looked very out of sync last night offensively. And St. Louis is a big team, and I mean they got some injuries too and that. So every team's going through this, but St. Louis found a way this last night to beat the Wild, but the Wild playing better than I thought. I thought there'd be a 500 team for what they had. You got to know that they're losing $15 million. That can be 3 good players extra than that team if they didn't have the Parisi and the Suter contracts. So I think they're playing pretty good for what they have, and hopefully a couple of these young ones pick it up. And um, Boldy's doing good. He's a young kid, but he's been doing good all year. And hey, they got back. Who am I thinking of? One of the forwards that was on the Kaprizov line at one time, but in Zuccarello. But we'll see. And going over the standings, it looks like Boston is the top team in National Hockey League so far this year. And then they're way ahead of everyone. They're just having an amazing year. They've won 31 games, lost 4, and then they had 4 overtime games. So that's amazing. Unbelievable. And they weren't even picked in the top 3 in the East. That's crazy to me. But teams that were picked and are doing a pretty good job, Toronto, Carolina, and let's see, where's Tampa? And Tampa's coming back. So those 3 teams they picked to be the top 3 in the East, and they're doing it. So, but another surprise I thought was New Jersey. They got 53 points in 40 games. So, and then the Rangers are playing like they did last year, and they should make the playoffs if they keep doing it. And Washington keeps doing it they got a lot of age players, but they got 50 points in 42 games, so that's remarkable. So let's see. We got Dallas over on the other side with Vegas, and the LA Kings and Winnipeg as the top 4 teams right now in the Western. With Minnesota, they're about, let's see, their top team has 56 points, second place has 52, and the Wild have 47. So it's getting fun. It's getting the second half of the year. It's going to be a lot of serious hockey in every level. So I would get out to the rinks and watch some hockey. Local, if you're in the cities, there's a lot of great high school games. You can go to the Hockey Hub. I'm going to start putting on my website, MinnesotaHockeyConnection.com, the games of the week. And you can go to Legacy Hockey. They'll have schedules for high school. And hey, get out to the rink. There's pro games, college games, junior games out the wilderness, out in Cloquet if you're in Northland. I'm telling you, there's some great hockey. So get out to the rink, and we will see you at the rink. Have a good day.